Hi, my name is Sam. My story is how we got from riches to rags. Yeah, that's right. I never thought that would be such a situation, but as it turns out, life happens. So just sit back and listen. I was born into a very poor family. I have parents and a younger sister, Nellie. We grew up in the huge world-famous city of New York. As you know, that this is the city people go to for the pursuit of their dreams, and so we did the same. Before all this, we lived in something like a village with very few people. Cars, our life was kind of slow and quiet. My dad worked as an entrepreneur. He was a farmer, I think. I don't remember exactly, and he doesn't like to remember that time because it was tough for us. Yes, in the beginning, we barely had any money, but that was for a short period. I was an only child in the family at the time. I feel like I was around a year and a half when my father freaked out, dropped everything, and him and mom decided to go after their dreams. Mom did not immediately agree because we didn't have the money to move, and even more to such an expensive city. But dad insisted. He promised that he would do everything, even the impossible, so that we would not need anything, and kept his word. But more on that later. My father collected all the saved up money we had, got into debt, and we moved there in an old pickup truck. Mom said that we were on road for several days, spent nights in motels and saved on food. Arriving in New York, we did not immediately find an apartment. Either the area wasn't good enough to our documents. After another couple of days, we finally managed to find what we needed at an affordable price. Dad used to tell me that life was never as bad as it was then, and sometimes he even wanted to go back. But he remembered his word as a man, and he had to keep it. Mom felt so lost with a small child in her arms. She couldn't even find a job because she was looking after me. At some point, she even went to the streets to beg because there was no food for us to eat. My father disappeared somewhere day and night in search of work. Oh, and how many times he just did not show up. Mom lost hope. She regretted that she had believed him and went to look for work herself. They refused her everywhere because no one wanted to take a mother with a small child to work. But we could no longer afford to just sit back and wait. So then finally she found something. A cleaning lady was needed in a cafe near our apartment. The owner was an older woman. She hired Mom probably because she pitied her. Now, we had at least some money for rent and food. Mom was planning to go back and was saving up money. It all was too hard for her, and there was no news from Dad. 2 months passed. It was the hardest time for our family. And right at the moment when my mom was going to work, suddenly knocked on the door, and I ran into the hallway and screamed, "Daddy!" Mom was confused and went to open the door. There really was my father behind her. He was exhausted, thin, with a big smile. Mom could not believe her eyes. Her father took me in his arms and came in. Mom did not want to let him in, but agreed still. And suddenly, Dad sat down on the floor because we had no furniture, and we even slept on the floor. He pulled a lot of money out of his pockets. Mom was shocked. He asked where it was from. He did not understand his explanations. Mom even thought he had robbed someone. But Dad said that the money was not stolen. He earned it honestly. He swore on his life and then recalled his promise and said that he had fulfilled it. Mom burst into tears, and my father said that from that day he would be home. On the same day, they packed up and moved to a more expensive, comfortable apartment with good furniture. A new life had began there, and a new chapter in our history. Did you think this was the end? This is just the beginning. After 3 years, we became very rich. We still did not know what my father was doing, but he provided us everything. Over time, we thought our own luxurious house. My mom gave birth to my sister. Dad worked hard but never left us for long periods. So eventually Nellie and I went to school. My mom was at home and always redecorated and updated the house or the garden. She loved doing this even though we had a servant. And in that same year, we bought the house and finally finished decorating it. My dad insisted we celebrate and do a housewarming party. So he invited a bunch of guests. Among them was his best friend named Mr. Jantz. Mr. Jantz worked in the police, but he was about to leave work and said he wanted a quiet life. As far back as I can remember, he always said that there were dangerous criminals in the city, drug dealers. He had been chasing them for many years. His boss notes that kindly hinted that Jantz had lost his grip and was no longer able to solve high-profile crimes. It hurt him, but my dad always praised him. We chose the date and prepared for it. There were so many people in the house that evening. When Dad opened the door to another guest, Mr. Jantz was there. He came with his dog. Nellie and I was so happy to see him. Dad was a little hesitant, but Mr. Jans apologized and says that he could not leave him at home since the dog was not yet used into the apartment. My girlfriend will come soon, and she will take him with her. But for now, can I leave him in your garden? He asked. Then Nellie begged Dad, and he finally agreed. My sister and I went straight to the garden with the dog and played there. He was so cool. His name was Vegas. The evening passed so quickly, and then they came for the dog. Mr. Jans came out to our garden and told us a little about the dog. He's the best in our section, always finds drugs and contraband. But we are being retired, said my father's friend in a sad tone, and Mr. Jans took the dog. When he refused to leave, he suddenly sat down near Dad's shed and he would not leave, then began to bark. At that moment, my dad came out and wanted the dog away. Hey buddy, are you okay? Said his owner, but the dog could not stop barking. Mr. Jans gave the dog to his girlfriend and went into the house. The party was over, but the next morning, Mr. Jans came back unexpectedly. We wondered what he was doing here so early. Turns out that he and the dog went for a run and Vegas jumped over the fence and ran to us. Dad had already left for work. I was delighted, thinking the dog just liked us. We found the dog in the garden, and what Vegas found there made us all freeze for a moment. Turns out Vegas broke the lock and climbed inside. Father never allowed us to go unopened it, and he said that things from the old apartment were just stored there. But before our strange containers, Mr. Jans remembered his officer behavior and climbed inside wearing gloves. And then he immediately asked my mom, "Is this yours?" But Mom honestly answered, and she had never seen any of this because Dad would not allow it. Mr. Jans opened the container and immediately grabbed his phone. He sounded devastated when he said he was going to call the unit here. We did not understand what was going on. My mom started to panic a little, and then the friends just said, "Sorry, I didn't know that everything would turn out like this. But this is my duty. I think I have found a criminal that I have been searching for many years," he said, making it clear that it was about my father. Mom began to cry. She did not believe that this was happening. She wanted to call Dad, but Jans took her phone away. Within a couple of minutes, our yard was full of police officers. The craziest thing was Mr. Jans in Vegas had their last day on duty, and he finally fulfilled his last goal. He found the drug dealer, and yes, it turned out to be my own father. My family was not the only ones who were shocked, but also he himself and our neighbors. Mr. Jans said that he actually considered my dad to be a true friend, but my dad was probably just getting information and hiding the goods from him. Dad managed to become friends with the cop, which allowed him to run his business smoothly for so many years. I felt conflicted. We managed to see our dad at the police station, where he denied everything, including the containers that were found at the house. He demanded a lawyer. In the end, he was found guilty, and the fraud was exposed, and other members of his business were found. They were all imprisoned, and all their property was confiscated. So we are left with nothing again. My dad did not give up, fought for freedom, paid the last money to the lawyers. My mom helped him as best as she could, and also took care of us. Several years passed in this way, and when the money ran out, my mom took us and left to the city where I was born because it was much cheaper to live there. We visit Dad, but we never saw Mr. Jans again. If you liked the video, then press the like button and leave us some comments. Don't forget to subscribe.